to feel the Holy Spirit, to listen and to pray. For the temple is a house of God.
It is time for another episode of the Cultural Hall, and it is a temple ticker episode, which means we bring in, I don't know that I would call him my best friend in the world, but one of my best friends in the world. The only reason he's not my best friend in the world is because we've never really hung out. Otherwise, it's fairly telling. I'm like the cipher in the snow, Corey K. Ward, where when I die, everyone's going to go, he thought I was his best friend, and everyone will be super sad. I've gone on a tangent. I didn't mean to. We talk all about temples of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. How are you doing, sir?
I'm doing well.
Have you seen
Yeah.
Cipher in the Snow? Do you have any idea what I'm talking about?
I think so. But my mom all the time talks about it. And I
Oh.
scarred her as a child watching
Yes.
it. So
Well, it's a tragic film. Very quickly came out of BYU. It's like a church film, sort of, in the era of like the phone call. But this kid, he goes to the back of the bus and he falls out of the back of the bus into the snow and dies. And you find out how lonely this.
spoiler alert. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So I want you to know that you're like that teacher in that film to me. You were my best friend. You just had no idea because you only talked to me just a few times. Sad.
Yeah, we still haven't met in person, Richie. So
I know. Listen, that's the only reason you're not my real best friend, because my real best friend who never answers my phone calls. You know what? Why don't we talk about temples of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints?
let's do it.
You know, and study and seek out and just love being able to do this. So where would you like to take us first for our temple news?
Yeah, there was a rash of temple dedications in this last couple of weeks. So yeah, let's talk about those.
Let's do it.
So June 9th, the Cobán, Guatemala temple was dedicated by Dale Renlund. He was really trying at Quiche. He was trying to learn the language and everything. He kept saying to everyone, Masala cho olo, which I guess means how is your heart? And so as a cardiologist, he was, I guess, doing
cool.
checkups. I don't know. He's doing checkups. I don't know what he was doing there. So
Spiritual checkups.
oh, okay. Thanks.
Yeah. Spiritual heart checkups, because he is a now spiritual doctor.
In response, they said, Sa'in cho olo ba a Dios. So they said, my heart is content. So
Well, that's good.
that's what everyone said.
My hope was that you were going to say that the way that he was putting an accent on something, that people went, that doesn't mean what you think it means.
Yeah, he also likes rivers a lot. If you recall, there was 2 temple dedications prior. He dedicated the Kinshasa Democratic Republic of the Congo temple.
Mhm.
He talked about the flowing Congo River, how they would like throw their idols into the river and never see them again. And then just a couple years ago, he was in Belém, Brazil, which is where the Amazon River flows into the ocean. And so he also talked about that powerful symbol. And so now in Guatemala, he's talking about the several rivers, the tributaries that go into the river and then flow into a lake, which I'm trying to remember that name, that lake, which then eventually goes to the ocean. But yeah, he just talked about how all the little decisions we make all flow into one kind of whole, into a whole of our life, and how the temple plays part of that. So that was his.
Rivers and tributaries are Elder Renlund's plains, like Elder.
I would say so.
right?
Yeah, he always he's
Yeah.
always talking about those. Yeah.
Yeah, I like it. Listen, I think that you have a thing, right? Everyone has like maybe you're the guy that's like, well, it's like physical fitness, and you compare everything to physical fitness to spiritual fitness, or I'm here for it. Let him have the tributary thing. I'm on board.
Yeah. They also talked about how in 1979, Elder Packer was in Guatemala, and he said that he foresaw the day when there would be a temple in Guatemala City, Quetzaltenango, and then in Cobán. And so a lot of people are saying like this temple is a fulfillment of that prophecy. Now there's those first 3 temples in Guatemala, which I would not have guessed that Cobán would have been number 3, because it's just such a small, isolated place with only a few stakes. So it is interesting that in that order it happened. Elder Renlund, although he doesn't speak, I don't think he speaks proficiently Spanish. He gave the Dedicatory Prayer in Spanish, so he brushed up on on that to be able to do that, which is cool.
Do you suppose that they have like dialect or like language coaches? Because I know like President Nelson has studied and, knows different languages. That's not what I'm saying. But do you think that there are people that are like, hey, this will be super meaningful if you could do this in Spanish? And so almost like you'd memorize, a poem or like a part in a play, you can just sort of memorize that thing? Or is it too lengthy? Is it too...
No, you can go read the Dedicatory Prayer. It's only a few paragraphs. So I think you could probably spend a few sessions just trying to get the pronunciation okay. That's probably good.
Yeah, I think that's pretty cool.
Yeah. Cobán is not a big city, but there was 54,000 people that toured the temple.
Wow.
So that's like, let's see if I can look at the population is about 212,000. So like a fourth of the city probably went through the temple.
Jeez.
And then the temple district will include 4 stakes, which are in Guatemala, and then 4 districts that are in the area, including 2 that are in the country of Belize. So this temple will serve that country as well.
Cool. So when I run away and try and go off the grid, this will be the temple that I'll attend. I like that. Okay. Then we go to Salta, Argentina.
Yeah, Salta. By the way, Cobán was number 193 of temple dedicated. Salta, Argentina was number 120, 194. And so Todd Christofferson was there. He actually even recorded a church news podcast talking about his time as a missionary. And he was in the Argentina North Mission. And Salta was the second area. And he said he remembers that he just took part in helping build the first chapel in that city. There's only 2 branches at the time. And he just thought, oh, this is cool. But he said, I'll probably never visit the city again. And so he would be able to come back to the temple.
It's wild to me thinking about like serving in a place. You're like, well, this was great. And you don't sort of know where life is going to lead you. And then you're coming back years later and being able to remember how the church was just in size and, building and that kind of thing. And then being able to come back. I mean, granted, it is like 62 years later. So there's some time, right? But being able
that was 1964.
Yeah. And then being able to come back and go, whoa, are you the grandson? Like, that's the thing that I think is cool. Are you the grandson of the person that we ran into that, oh yeah, and my dad was I love those kind of stories. What am I trying to say here? The seeds that are planted and then you're like, I don't know. Okay. That was a fun time. And then you were able to come back and see that they actually, in fact, did grow.
Yeah. He talked about how, when he visited Argentina for the first time as a general authority, that the wife of another general authority, Claudia Aram Costa, he had helped taught her family. So
cool.
Yeah, those just connections. And he was a missionary under the direction of Richard G. Scott, who was the mission president. So he also talked about just his influence on that area as well.
Who, for people that may not know, former apostle of the church. There's now 3 in Argentina and 4 more planned. Geez, I can't believe this.
I know. And just next in the fall, there'll be another one dedicated in Mendoza. So this temple will serve 8 stakes and then 5 districts. And 2 of those stakes actually come from southern Bolivia, the city of Tarija. So they'll be there, even though they're in a different country, they're still closer to this temple.
Then we come up to Layton, Utah, which is significant. Significant things about the Layton, Utah temple. It's sad for some, about time for others, tragic maybe, some might say, a real miss. How come we're doing this? All of the things that I'm sure you'll get into.
I'm curious if it's why it's that somber.
Yeah.
This is dedicated the same day, but it was, because of the time zone, it was a couple hours later. So it's Temple 195. Elder Bednar was there to dedicate the temple. The 22nd in Utah. This is the last temple dedicated that has a gold Moroni on.
That's what I'm talking about. Listen, we used to be back in my day, Pharaoh, Corey K. Ward, we used to know that it was a temple because you could look and you could see gold Moroni. You could see him atop the temple. We would know. It was as if he was blowing his trumpet, his horn, saying, "Come on back. Hear the call. Come back to the building. Has it been a while? But not anymore, because they are not Moroni's temples. They are temples of the Lord, and we're not going to put it is a little odd to me that we haven't decided to do some sort of other symbology on top of the temples in the name of making it the Lord's temple, that we just are like, no Moroni's, but we're not going to do anything on the other side of it. It's an end of an era, really.
Yeah, going back to the 1980s, that's when Moroni started to appear in temples. And
See? That's
so
my whole
tradition of
life.
about
That's
45
my
years.
whole life. My whole life.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see. We still have that silver Moroni in the Ivory Coast, which will be dedicated hopefully next year. So yeah, the Layton Temple was one of those first COVID groundbreakings. They just like stuck the chairs in the field. It's kind of funny. They went to like a high council room, took out all the chairs and like put them in the grassy field. It was obviously probably not planned or anything that way, but they just decided to do that to social distance, and they only invited like 10 people. So
And they separated them not by 6 feet, but by 60 feet. If you look at the pictures, it just looks like it's forever away. So it's like, we've gathered you. Or like, listen on your radio, listen on your phone as we get this. Yeah. But done, gorgeous. It's absolutely just cool. Layton, good for you. Big story. If you people, and I know you've mentioned it in previous ones, but worth the read in all of these places, I think. But an interesting story about the land that the Layton, Utah temple is on and how the church got it and all that stuff.
yeah, I think we talked about it earlier, but yeah, it was a piece of land that some people that had descended from pioneers that settled the area, and that were adamant of not selling it because they didn't want to. I don't know. They didn't want to be suburbanized, I guess.
It's because they knew that one day, I don't know, maybe, could be.
Yeah, they said that this temple was actually one of the last ones initially reviewed by President Monson and his counselors back then. So this is going back to the Monson presidency, even though it was announced, one of the first announced by President Monson. It will serve 23 stakes in the Layton, Kaysville, and Fort Heights area. So that will take a big chunk out of the Bountiful Temple District.
Which is good. That Bountiful Temple's too busy anyway. It is. You go up there, you get a great lunch at Plates and Pallets, and then you head over to the temple and you have to wait a couple hours. Come on. Efficiency. Let's get the meal on the way up to the Layton Temple, do the stuff in the Layton Temple, and then you can go back home. What do they want us to drive 20 more miles in Utah? Are you kidding me? Forget it. I'm just spoiled. The one down the road is pretty rad. I'm going with my dad this next week to the Taylorsville Temple.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Well, speaking of more Utah temples, there's a dedication announced for the 23rd Utah Temple, the Desert Peak Utah Temple there in Tooele. They're going to have an open house on September 26th through October 19th, which is shorter than other Utah temples we've had. So if you want to go, make sure to schedule that. The dedication will be on November 10th, and they did not indicate who will preside. So I took the time to get a spreadsheet out and basically tally where all the apostles are currently and how many temples they've dedicated. So I see that right now Elder Rasband is only at 2 temples, so maybe it'll be him that does that.
Let's give it to Elder Kieran.
Elder Kieran, yeah, he hasn't had any
He's never
yet.
done one.
And Elder Allan has actually never dedicated a temple. He's only rededicated 2 temples. So
really,
I'm thinking that the reason why they didn't normally they don't announce when it's a general authority that maybe have health issues. So I think just to play it safe, although Elder Allan looks a lot healthier than he has been, anything could happen now until November.
So wait, so are you pointing to Holland and saying, I want to pick, this is the kind of stuff I love? What are you thinking?
Which, as president of the quorum, he probably helps make a lot of these decisions about dedicates what temple. So
you're thinking Elder Holland? Oh, I'm pinning you down. Make a pick.
I think that's why they didn't specify anyone, because I think they're going to reserve it for him. So.
I'm going to say Elder Kieran. They're going to be like, listen, it's nice and close. If you don't know what to do exactly, you can come back here real quick and then you can go back out there, that kind of thing. I'm saying Elder Kieran. Why not?
Okay.
Got to get him one. Is there?
Okay.
I know within the news, and I haven't looked. I need to look at. That's amazing, though. By the way, and there will be a link to this in the show notes. I think. Can we link? We can link the temple dedication
Yeah.
thing. Yeah.
Mhm.
That you took the time to do that. I love that so much. Is there? I know with the announcement of the dedication, but I don't think it is in your. Yeah. Just talking about how that's not originally where the Deseret Peak Temple was going to be. It wasn't going to be there. It was somewhere else, and that was sort of the first in what modernish day where they decided, hey, this is going to be somewhere else than where it was originally intended. Sure, there are other ones. I know there's one back east that happened, and maybe it's been happening all along since we've been temple building. But I feel like that has sort of ushered in what we experience now, which is you want a temple where? Hold on. And then we have to go through the courts and the city councils and all the things and say, guys, it's fine. We did all this already, but if this is the process we're going to do, we will put it there.
Yeah, it was a big deal because the town of Erta, the residents, basically organized to get a referendum on the ballot, and so it looked very likely that the temple approval was going to go to the ballot for the people of Erta, and so it would have been interesting to see the church campaigning for that. And so I think, yeah, this decision was made just to pull it and move it from Erta to Tooele. So yeah.
Yeah, all those Erta citizens that wanted it are like, great, thanks, guys. A little further. Thanks a lot. Let me think here, because we do need to take a break at some point. Maybe let's get through the groundbreakings announced, and then we'll take let's just get through the groundbreakings instead of the announcements, and then we'll take a quick break.
Yeah, there was 2 groundbreakings held this last month. The first was in Santa Cruz, Bolivia. Elder Ceballos, or KF Ceballos, was there as part of the South America Northwest Presidency to preside at the groundbreaking. What's I think the best thing about this is the podium. It's probably the best podium I've ever seen at a temple event.
In your show notes you have amazing podium, and so I was actually clicking on that. That is cool.
Yeah, it's probably like a native Bolivian kind of design, red and orange, yellow. Looks like maybe flowers. Yeah, it's really cool.
It sort of reminds me of like 1970s-ish, kind of like a lot of flowers and swirls and stuff. It's not like paisley, but that is cool. That is an amazing podium.
Yeah, so that's will be the second temple that will start construction in Bolivia. There's also a third announced for La Paz. So be good to see that going. And then just this last weekend on June 22nd, the Ribeirão Preto temple had their groundbreaking in there in Brazil. Elder Johnny Cott was the presiding authority. He talked about how he was a missionary there 44 years ago. So that's also something special that you got to reminisce about, I guess. And the word Ribeirão, that means black in Portuguese, and then Preto means like stream. So I guess there's a river or a stream going through the city that's a dark color. So that's why it's what it's named.
So we can look forward to Elder Renlund dedicating that temple because
I think so.
There are river dibs, guys. Back off. That's my thing. Rivers are my things. Tributaries are mine. Let's take a quick break. When we come back, we've still got a lot of temple news. It'll go pretty quick. We've got groundbreakings that have been announced, sites that have been announced, renderings that are out there, construction updates, new missionary training center, which we've talked about a little bit previously, but you got more details. And why did the church buy the Kirtland Temple? We'll come back and do that in the second half of the Temple Ticker of the Cultural Hall. BestDJinUtah.com is the website. That is where you go if you would like me to come and DJ your event. Now, will I do a family reunion where you all wear the same t-shirts? You bet I will. Will I travel to wherever you're at? Am I reasonable as far as what I cost? Yes. Do I bring a good time? Yeah, all the things. Listen, Best DJ in Utah, it's my company. It's a thing I do that allows me to be able to have the time to do the Cultural Hall. So if someone's getting married, you think, man, they need a great DJ. You're throwing a party, whether it's a 50th or 60th or 40th or 20th or whatever the party is. I've done them all and would love to be able to do that. An anniversary party, certainly done those. I did a baptism in 2023. Yeah, we did a big dance party at a baptism. Spoiler, not a Mormon baptism, but it was fun nonetheless. bestdjinutah.com is a website. I will get back to you within 24 hours with a quote. Come on now. bestdjinutah.com.
Imagine running a small business today. It's challenging. Imaging and internet presence is an absolute must. Even with that, you're still a small star in a bright cyber universe. Now, imagine you have someone who understands how to get your site designed for your talents and then easily searched by potential clients. Imagine Lennon Design. Whether it's strictly a website or a whole package of logo creation, advertising media, and promotional materials, Lennon Design is your partner in business. They'll test the boundaries of their imagination to create something unique for you. When you need creative, affordable design, let it be Lennon Design. Call 801-699-3022 or visit LennonDesign.com.
Here in the second half of the Temple Ticker, just a quick reminder, you can become a Patreon saint of the Cultural Hall. Go to patreon.com/the Cultural Hall. It's where you get to see all the videos first. You can now see them on YouTube, on the Cultural Hall's YouTube channel, but you get to see them first if you are a Patreon saint. It's also a great place where behind the scenes people will say things like, I love rivers and I love Elder Renlund. What a great combination, or any sort of other tangential conversation they'd like to have. Patreon.com/the Cultural Hall. So let's get to these groundbreakings that are announced.
Yeah, the I guess August 17th is going to be a big day, not just because it's my birthday, but because there'll be two more temple groundbreakings held. The first one being in Londrina, Brazil, and Elder Ciros, I don't know how to say it, Shmael. Yeah, so he'll be the one to do the groundbreaking on that one. And then the Santiago, Chile West Temple. I think Santiago West Chile Temple. That will be have a groundbreaking by Allan R. Walker. So that's the second temple in the city of Santiago, and then it's the fourth in Chile. They also released the rendering for the first time. It looks, if you remember back to the San Luis Potosí temple, as well as the Cali, Colombia temple, those two temples look pretty similar. It's a small footprint like the Helena temple, and it's a Spanish colonial design. So it's interesting also that they're sticking with this name Santiago West and not just they didn't find some fancy new name for this.
Oh,
So,
they will.
you think so?
Yeah.
Because normally by the time they do the groundbreaking, they do it, they change it.
It will not be Santiago West. They've just been busy. They had to come up with Feather River and some other things, right? They give them a minute. I don't think it'll be. They can't. No. There's no way. They will have to come up with something, and I'm willing to stick my neck out on that. I'll buy you lunch as my best friend that we've never met in person. I will buy you lunch. That can be our first meeting. If I'm wrong, if it goes on the books as the Santiago West, I will eat my shoe.
Good catch. Yeah, so there'll be 3 temple groundbreakings on this day, August 17th. So I'm sure you'll get a lot of church news stories about.
Now, 3 of them you said, Brazil, Chile, and where's the third one?
The one previously announced was the Austin, Texas temple. Yeah.
Okay.
And your old boss, Elder Dunn, will be there. So
yeah, my old boss. Now, site announcements. These are kind of fun because you're going to tell us about a place that we go, okay. It's in the intersection of this and this. All right. But you pick out the significant things about it. Brussels, Belgium.
Yeah, okay. This is a kind of a big deal because the Brussels Belgian temple will be constructed within an existing building located on Avenue des Arts, 52, I guess. That's the address. What's special about this is that it is in the center of Brussels, right there by a metro stop, right there, just a throw away from the I think it's called the Royal Palace of Brussels. That's kind of where a lot of the royal family does their ceremonial stuff, and it's a big museum. And in the neighborhood, there's a lot of buildings that are offices for the European Union. That's where they're headquartered. So it's a really big international hub that the church is choosing to put this temple. It also kind of looks like kind of the style of Washington, D.C., where all the buildings are basically about like 8 stories high, give or take. kind of a flat skyline around these buildings, these federal buildings in Brussels. So it'll be very interesting to see when they release a rendering to see what they do with this. I would suspect there's no spire. I could be wrong, but I think just assuming the area probably needs to fit in pretty well to the area. So within this building, they'll also have a new meeting house and an arrival facility. It'll be about 25,000 square feet.
I'm looking at the the street view on Google Maps right now. I would to tell you that art is not a thing. It is a way. That's one of the billboards in the backdrop of where that Brussels, Belgium temple is going to be. So I hope that you reflect on that today. Springfield, Missouri.
Really quick. There's an old image. If you go back in time, you can see when the building was for sale back in 2014, and it says probably the best place in town. So I think a lot of church members will say, yeah, the temple is the best place in town. Little did they know.
Yeah, see, we didn't know where to do it, but then we saw the sign and it's like there. It's obviously got to be there. We have no choice at that point. Springfield, Missouri.
Yeah, shout out to shots of this temple site.
Oh, you're cutting out just a little bit.
It would be built. The church bought it not long ago. It was just for sale back last year, I guess.
Yeah, it was Rick McGee who let us know about where this site would be. For some reason, sir, you're kind of cutting in and out. Have you got me now?
I think I'm back.
Okay. Okay.
So unfortunately, the church kind of preempted our scoop and announced officially that it would be there indeed at East Farm Road there in southern Missouri. Right now, it's just a big field, grassy field. It's right across the street from another church. Can't remember what the name was, but it's kind of in a new developing area. The River Blessed Fellowship is what it's called. And I did look at the zoning. It is zoned single family residential. However, I did look on the city code. It said that churches are permitted use in that area. So it's a 38-acre site. I wouldn't be surprised if part of that does eventually get developed into houses. Just because it's such a big site for a temple the size. It will be 29,000 square feet, single story. That's pretty similar to a lot of the temples that we've been seeing being built across the United States and around the world. So
looking at the Google Map, road view of this is exactly what I feel like Missouri looks like. It's super flat and super green. And there's a Schwann's truck driving by. This is fun. Okay. Anyway, people need to click on the links in the show notes. It's worth it to do that on some of these things for the work that you've done. New Zealand.
Yeah, we got previously announced temple that had a site. Now it has a rendering. And this is it was pretty surprising to me because this is going to be a small temple of only 14,000 square feet. But it's going to be a very tall temple. I was surprised. It basically looks like if you put two Helena, Montana steeples on top of a two-story building. That's what it would look like. Maybe they're reusing some architectural assets. There'll be also like a really tall arched portico above the doorway, which looks interesting. And it's probably about the size of like the Okinawa Japan temple, I'm assuming. But definitely they went a little bit more all out in the spires. It will be in a part north of Wellington called Riua, just on this prominent slope above the bay. So it'll be interesting to see when this temple's built.
We got some news about the Salt Lake Temple. I thought this was interesting. Each of the things that they're doing with the Salt Lake Temple, I've appreciated that they've kind of gone in depth and said, this is what's been happening. Here is, why we do that and exactly what it might look like and being able to bring us along. But this is all about the cables, miles of cables.
Yeah, apparently there's 263 miles of cables underneath the temple, and that will help support it in the event of an earthquake. So yeah, that's interesting. Also, BYU, they love the temple so much, they created a model of Legos of the Selectable. So you can now go see that at, let's see, where is it? At the library. So if you're at BYU, go to the library, look at the temple model. People to see. I think they also have some other models of temples like the Washington, D.C. temple, and some other church buildings. So
yeah, if you can't go to the temple to show your devotion, spend countless amounts of hours and create a Lego replica of a temple. It's almost equal. Ivory Coast.
Yeah, we talked about that temple that has that different colored Moroni. It's been really slow. It seems to be approaching every few months. I'm like, okay, this is gonna be the time. It's almost done. But it's been going kind of slow. But I think the church, that's probably because the church donated a road to the community. They built a new 2 kilometer road that goes right next to the temple. So I think that will help basically facilitate that the temple gets finished, and it also was a gift to the community that they can have this new road. We saw it back in the early 2000s. The church built a bridge and a road next to the Abba and Jerry temple. So pretty similar to the churches in trying to invest in the community and be good neighbors.
Well, and it's significant because I mean, some of these places, like, it's a pretty big deal, that bridge that you're speaking of. And they did another one, I think, I want to say that they did someone in the DRC, and it may not have anything to do with the temple, but I think fairly recently we just were like, hey, listen, we are big players in this community, and we know that this community needs this, and we're able to have the resources and built a bridge, something like that. I love the spiritual welfare for people that people within the church are doing, but I also like it when they're like, you need a road, we'll build a road. You need a water, plant, we'll help you with some water. I like that we aren't just so just only spiritually focused. I think that's a big deal.
Yeah. Let's see. Next on our list, Stockholm, Sweden. We talked about how they demolished the old temple. And they finished that demolition, and now they are just building the foundation for a new temple. So that's starting up. It will look pretty similar to the old one, although it will be 2 stories. So a little bit different.
And it won't be demolished like the
Hopefully.
Yeah.
You never know. Maybe these buildings only have 50-year lives. I don't know.
Boy, I hope not.
Yeah. We also saw construction activities starting at the Wichita, Kansas temple site. There has not been a groundbreaking announced, but it looks like they're doing some clearing the land, getting it ready. Maybe we'll have a groundbreaking pretty
We're
soon.
putting in the equipment. Where once there was just a field, here there's some equipment.
The Orlando, Florida temple, we talked about how it will close for renovation. By the time you're listening to this, it will probably be pretty close to closing on July 1st. So yeah, it'll be maybe a year and a half, 2 years or so. Temple will be offline. So
And another one, the Tabernacle, Paris, Idaho Tabernacle. This is a staple for that community. It's not going away. It's not being torn down, but they are going to renovate it.
yeah, it looks like it'll be a renovation for about a year, just after their 4th of July celebration. Yeah, it's a very historic building. One of the most unique church buildings, I would say, in the church.
Yeah.
Up there in the Bear Lake area. My ancestors came from England and settled in a town called Bloomington, which is just like a couple miles south of Paris. So I'm sure they probably were involved in construction, or at least the meetings that happened here. So that goes back to 1863.
Yeah. And like you point out, because a lot of people in the Salt Lake City metro area will take the quick weekend vacation up to Bear Lake. Lots of people have seen the Paris Tabernacle. They'll go into town and walk and tour, or there's always concerts. They have tons of civic events there. What I don't know, will they continue to do those somewhere else, or will they just be like, guys, we're on a committee and we finally got an opportunity for a year off. We're taking a vacation. We'll see you again in a year's time. Who knows?
Yeah, that'll be interesting. Yeah.
This is cool too in Nauvoo, because now some of the properties have exchanged hands. We need a bigger visitor center.
Yeah, this is actually we'll still have that old visitor center, the Nauvoo Visitor Center, but this will be a new temple visitor center specifically, built kind of in front of where the temple is right now, kind of in front of the Catholic Church that's right there next to it. But yeah, we talked about previously that they were going through the town council and getting the approvals and everything. It looks like that's done, and now they've started construction of the new visitor center. So
What I want to know is the ice cream shop still there, and do members of the church still own it?
I think it's the custard, right? That's the famous one. The Nauvoo custard.
I think, yeah. Well, I think there is yes, but I think that the ice cream shop that's just down the road, I want to say, is owned by members of the church. I can't remember it being custard. You may be very well right. But
Okay, I'm sure there's more than one. That's for sure.
Yeah, one of the shops, it's like, make sure you go to the ice cream shop of this people because they're members of the church. It goes into their pockets. Now I want custard real bad. All right, we'll go. You and I. We're gonna take a road trip. Our one adventure. We keep
Love to do
promising
that.
all these things.
Love to go to Nauvoo again. Yeah, that'd be cool.
We can go into Joseph's tomb once that's open. Once the go back and listen to that episode, everyone.
That's pretty close to the visitor center too. So.
Yeah, see, it's becoming all of the things. I love what we're doing to this place. Yeah. Okay. So Temple Visitor Center. I'll take it.
Let's see. Elder Suarez was visiting Asia. He went to Ulaanbaatar, Mongolia, as well as Osaka, Japan. Those two places have had temples recently announced. So yeah, he was just speaking to the members about that, the blessing that will be. While he was in Japan, he did a devotional among Latino members of the church. They said there was 220 members there that are basically immigrants, or basically in Japan for work purposes. So it is interesting to see an apostle pay attention to this group of members.
Yeah, that's significant. I like that. We mentioned this next story a little bit on an articles of news that we did, but I knew that you would have much more in depth about a new missionary training center in Kinshasa, the Democratic Republic of the Congo.
Yeah, I just thought it was interesting. You were discussing about thought that maybe the model would be basically smaller MTCs in more nations, but that's actually the opposite of what the church has been doing the last recent years. They've had small MTCs in countries like Guatemala, Argentina, Chile, the Dominican Republic, Spain, and they've closed those since 2019 is when they started closing those. There's also used to be one in Japan and one in South Korea. So back in 2019, there was 17, but that got whittled down to 9 by 2023. So it is interesting to see that the church has actually centralized missionary training more. And the reason I think this is because it's easier to basically fly missionaries to a big MTC. And it's probably less expensive to fly them rather than to operate an MTC. But this is the opposite of that trend. Recently, we saw earlier this year, they announced an MTC in Bangkok, Thailand, and now this new MTC in Kinshasa, Congo.
Do you suppose that it's language specific? Because that was the other thing that I thought about. We didn't talk too much about it, but like this one in the Democratic Republic of the Congo is French. So maybe you have these places where it'll just be very language focused.
Yeah. And so I think the difference with this is that it's been more difficult to get visas for church members in the Congo. And so actually for the last couple of years, there's been an unofficial MTC that's been operating in the city, just in small numbers. But I guess the church has bought a building that's near the temple in Kinshasa, and it'll be the first in the Africa Central area, which was created not long ago. And so there's going to be 7 missions in the DRC, all French speaking, although it is interesting that most people in the DRC don't speak French as a first language, most of them speak as a second. And then there's also a total of 16 languages that speak primarily French in Africa. So I bet you'll see a lot of missionaries from Ivory Coast or Madagascar or Benin come and also get training here. We'll see.
Listen, I love it. I'm here for it. I wish I spoke any of the languages. I'd go work at the French MTC in the DRC. I'm open. I don't speak.
Yeah. It's also interesting is that they said it'll have a capacity of 200, which I think you guys said is really small. But actually, and compared to the other MTCs, this is actually the middle of the pack. The one in like South Africa, I think only has like 50, a capacity of 50. There's other MTCs that are like less than 100, and so having 200 actually puts it kind of in a medium-sized MTC.
I like to think that when you listen to us pretend like we know what we're talking about, that you're like, oh, they're so dumb. They are so dumb. This is middle of the pack. They are so dumb. Dumb. I'll correct that when we come back and do a temple ticker. I know your time is short. You got to get to work, but we've got to talk about the Mormon History Association held Kirtland was where the location was this year. Big meeting in the Kirtland Temple, and the church historian explained why. Why did we purchase the Kirtland Temple?
Yeah, it was a catchy headline, although he didn't say it directly why. But he said it's just so significant. That's why. And he said that there's just so many things rooted in the date April 3rd, 1836, which is where he said that several keys were basically conveyed from ancient prophets to Joseph Smith, including the dispensation, the Gospel of Abraham, the gathering of Israel, and the sealing power. So those have special segments to the Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. Other Latter-day Saint traditions don't hold that much significance in these events. So it is interesting to see that, them highlighting that. What's interesting is that he apologized to members of the Community of Christ and the Apostle Lachlan. He said that members of the church have come to the temple and said, when are you going to sell us this temple? Or worse, when are you going to give it to us back? And so he got a hearty applause from the group of historians. He said he apologized for those members who had good intent, but didn't have great manners.
Yeah, church doesn't apologize though, but sure.
It's a personal apology, not a church apology.
Yeah. It's not on behalf of. Yeah. I've been a part of it though. I've been a part of when there were tours and people would say stuff like that, and you're just like, how you want to be more tacky right now? Because there's not a way you could be more tacky than when they were like, when are you going to sell us this? Come on, it needs to be then the Lord's church. It's like, guys, missing. Oh my gosh, move along.
It's like if you were to say your cousin is living in your grandpa's house, and you say, hey, like, when are you going to give me back my house? And you're like, well, like, this was my grandpa's house. Like, it got descended down to me. That's how the Community of Christ got it. Just in the chain of succession, they just kept it. And so it's not like you can. Yeah. Anyways, that's a pet peeve of mine too.
Oh yeah.
But there was a great interfaith meeting that Sunday at the end of the conference, and just with speakers from both Community of Christ and the Church of Latter-day Saints and others. They sung the Spirit of God together, and they just had a great meeting.
Yeah. You've been to Kirtland? Yeah, I can't remember.
I haven't. No.
Oh, come on.
Sorry.
Honestly, if I were a man of means, I would say, get on a plane and I'll see you there. It's incredible. I hope you get the opportunity to do it. Anyone listening, if you get the chance, it is worth the while. It's not the same. Let me be very clear. It is a different sort of vacation than Disney World. So people that are like, oh yeah, is it going to be like, no, it's not going to be like that. But it is doing Kirtland, doing, like the birthplace of the prophet Joseph Smith, being able to go and to see these places is an experience that is like no other and is something you should do once in your lifetime, because it's different. It feels different. It hits different. Even if you're like, oh, listen, I'm no pharaoh. I don't care about buildings. It matters. And you care. I promise. I can't explain it, but to be able to be like, oh, this is the Newell K. Whitney store. And this is an original part of the flooring. And this is where this meeting occurred. Like it's just a cementing is sort of what I think. But even if it doesn't do that for your faith or your testimony, like it's just amazing to be like, oh, this is here. This is where Joseph Smith preached after he was tarred and feathered. This stone that still exists that you can stand on. Okay, wait a minute. I don't know. It's a pretty incredible experience. So
I'll take that into advisement. Yeah.
Yeah. So
I have been to Nauvoo and Missouri, but I haven't made it out east. So
Okay. Maybe sometime we'll go to the Mormon History Association together. I like making all these plans. It's easy to do. We don't actually
next year we'll be in Ogden, so a lot closer.
In Ogden.
They switch around. They have their conferences in a bunch of places.
Yeah, they go different places, but I don't know that I want to go to Ogden. Okay. Let's end this episode, shall we? You got to get to work. Get to work. We hope that this episode has nourished and strengthened your body.
We hope that if you weren't able to listen this week, that you'll be able to listen next week.
And that when the time comes, you'll be able to travel home in safety. In the meantime, Chris at Alpine Lakes Travel, Rick McGee, Debbie Wanless, Chocolate Cake Bites Podcast, and the Tiger with a U will be saving a seat for you
on the back row
of the Cultural Hall.
Save me a seat, it's sure to be neat on the back row. We really gotta go on the Cultural Hall show.